When propagating your pothos in water, the very first mistake is cutting the stem in the complete wrong place. Most beginners just snip the vine blindly anywhere between the leaves, completely ignoring where the actual roots grow. Take a look at this circled area. This smooth section is called the internode, and it contains absolutely no growth cells. Leaving a long empty stem trailing below your cutting means it cannot grow roots. It will simply rot and ruin your water. To fix this, look for the node, that tiny raised bump right where the leaf meets the vine. Take a sharp, clean pair of shears and make a clean cut at 45-degree angle, exactly 1/4 of an inch directly below that node. This gives you a perfect result. The slanted cut maximizes the surface area for drinking water, while keeping the root-producing node perfectly positioned at the very bottom. Now your cutting is ready to push out healthy roots in just a few days. Moving on to mistake number 2, and it's a silent killer. Using dirty or unsterilized tools to take your cuttings. Grabbing your everyday household scissors right out of the drawer introduces microscopic bacteria straight into the fresh wound of your plant. When a contaminated blade crushes the stem, it transfers fungi and bacteria directly into the plant's open pathways. Instead of healing and growing roots, the soft stem tissue immediately clogs, turns black, and begins to rot right before your eyes. The fix is incredibly simple but crucial. Before making any cut, wipe your blades down with 70% rubbing alcohol or antibacterial soap. Ensure your tool is razor sharp so it slices cleanly at an angle without crushing the stem. This gives your cutting a pristine, sterile start. With a fresh, angled cut and absolutely no bacteria blocking the stem, the plant can now focus 100% of its energy on drinking water safely. Now, let's look at mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is a double whammy for your cuttings, leaving way too many leaves on the stem and letting them sit under the water line. When you leave a massive cluster of heavy foliage on a rootless stem, it forces the plant to work overtime. Because there are no roots to draw in moisture, those excess leaves transpire and drain the stem's energy instantly, causing them to wrinkle and shrivel. Meanwhile, the leaves trapped under the water will quickly suffocate, turn mushy, and start to rot. To fix this, you have to be ruthless. Take your cutting out of the water and strip away the lower 60% of the leaves. Removing this heavy load stops the dehydration cycle and gives your stem a clean, manageable area to grow fresh roots. Pop your newly stem-lined stems back into the jar, ensuring only bare stem is touching the water. Now, with no extra leaves draining its power or rotting the supply, your plant can focus all its energy on rooting. Next up, mistake number 4. The 4th mistake is using hars straight from the tap water for your cuttings. Many city water systems add chlorine or chloramine to keep our water safe to drink. But these chemicals can be quite harsh on the sensitive developing root cells of a new plant. If you notice chalky white mineral rings forming on your glass, or if the water becomes cloudy quickly, it's a sign that your water quality is affecting the environment. This mineral buildup can actually hinder root growth and create a poor foundation for your new plant. The simple solution is to let your tap water rest in an open container for 24 hours before using it. This allows the chlorine to naturally dissipate, making the water much gentler and safer for your cutting to thrive in. By taking this extra step to prepare your water, you're giving your cutting the clean, chemical-free start it needs to develop strong, healthy roots. It's a small change that makes a huge difference in the long run. The 5th mistake is placing your cuttings in direct, harsh sunlight. While plants need light to grow, intense midday sun acts like a magnifying glass through the glass jar, quickly overheating the water and the delicate plant tissue. If you see papery brown patches appearing on your leaves, that is a sure sign of sun scorch. This damage is permanent, and if the plant stays in that spot, it will continue to lose its ability to photosynthesize effectively. The fix is simple. Move your cutting to a spot with bright, indirect light. Think of a space near a sheer curtain or a few feet away from a sunny window, somewhere that stays bright throughout the day without the direct burning heat. Once you move your plant, it will stop suffering from further burns and can focus all its energy back into growing those healthy white roots. Always remember, bright, yes, but keep the harsh rays away. Proper node placement is essential for successful plant propagation. A common error is positioning the cutting so that the growth node remains above the waterline, even though the node is the primary point where roots must emerge. When a node is left exposed to the air, it lacks the hydration needed to activate the rooting process. Instead of producing roots, the stem often stagnates. Deprived of the moisture required at this critical growth point, the cutting struggles to establish itself and will eventually fail to progress. To ensure success, always position the cutting so that the node is fully submerged beneath the water surface. This allows the node to access the moisture and stimulus required to initiate strong root growth. Correctly submerging the growth point creates the optimal environment for the cutting to thrive. This proper positioning transforms a struggling stem into a robust plant, setting it up for consistent root development and healthy long-term growth. Mistake number 7 is using opaque containers for propagation. While these dark ceramic vases might look stylish in your home, they hide the most important part of the process, your plant's root system. When you can't see what's happening under the water, you're essentially flying blind. The real problem here is the constant guesswork. You have to lift the plant out repeatedly just to check if it's actually growing or starting to rot. Every time you pull it out, you risk damaging delicate new root hairs and making a mess on your table. It's unnecessary stress for both you and the plant. The simple solution is to switch to clear glass. By using a transparent jar, you give yourself a front row seat to the magic of nature. You can easily monitor the water level and keep an eye on those developing roots without ever needing to disturb the cutting. Seeing those healthy white roots grow is not just satisfying, it's the best way to ensure your plant is thriving. For a successful propagation, always choose clarity over color. When propagating in water, timing is everything. This pothos cutting is a classic example of waiting too long. These roots are severely tangled, and while it looks impressive, this dense root ball is actually a hazard that prevents the plant from absorbing adequate oxygen, leading to suffocation. If left in water too long, the roots begin to die. The oxygen deprivation causes water starvation. As you can see, the once white roots turn brown, soft, and mushy. This is advanced root rot, and it quickly spreads up the stem, ultimately killing the cutting. The transition to soil must happen before this decay sets in. To pot an overgrown cutting successfully, first rinse off all the rotting debris. Then, carefully guide the remaining healthy root system into a pot with loose, well-draining mix, disturbing the delicate roots as little as possible. The lesson is clear. The ideal time to transplant is when roots are only 1 to 2 inches long. By potting early, you ensure the roots are still strong enough to adapt to soil. A massive root ball in water means you have already waited too long. Transplant early for propagation success. Starting with a healthy cutting is the foundation of propagation. If you start with a cutting that is already thin, discolored, or wilting, you are setting your plant up for failure before it even begins. When you place a weak cutting in water, the consequences are immediate. Lacking energy reserves, it won't produce healthy roots. Instead, the stem tissue will decompose, turning into a mushy, rotting mess that kills the cutting within days. For success, always select a thick, firm, and bright green stem from a vigorous plant. This high-quality material holds the energy necessary to transition from water to soil and thrive. By prioritizing the health of your initial cutting, you bypass these avoidable issues and set your new plant on the right path toward vigorous, long-term growth. Let's talk about a mistake that ruins many propagation projects: overcrowding. You might be tempted to put all your cuttings in one beautiful bottle, but stuffing too many vines into a narrow neck jar is a recipe for disaster. Plants need space for airflow, and when they're packed together, they just can't breathe. See this? This is what happens when those stems are pressed against each other in stagnant conditions. Without proper circulation, moisture gets trapped, leading to rapid bacterial rot. Those soft, mushy, and fuzzy stems, that's your plant crying out for room. The fix is simple. Give them some breathing room. Carefully take your cuttings out and separate them. By dividing that one dense bundle into 2 or 3 smaller groups, you immediately improve the environment for each individual stem. Now, with plenty of space in separate jars, your pothos can focus their energy on what really matters, growing strong, healthy roots. Remember, when it comes to propagation, less really is more.